Hello there, and thanks for watching this quick little video on password complexity. Today I'm going to attempt to simplify an explanation of password complexity, and by that I specifically mean how much more complex a password gets just by adding a character or adding two more characters. And hopefully that will drive home the importance of choosing longer passwords over shorter passwords. So you've all probably heard the typical explanation of password complexity and the number of combinations. It usually begins with something like this: x to the power of y, and we'll explain that, well, you know what, x equals the number of choices and y is the length of the password. So if we look at a simple example like using letters in the alphabet, we have 26 different letters, so 26 choices, and if we make our password 8 characters long, we would make it to the power of 8, so 26 to the power of 8. And typically you'll get an explanation of password complexity by saying, if we do the math, that's 26 times 26 times 26 8 times, which gives us a grand total of 208,827,064,576 different combinations of passwords if we use 26 letters and choose an 8-character long password. And usually that's thought of as a very good explanation of how complex a password can get just by using 8 characters. But I see a problem in that 208,827,000,000 doesn't really mean anything. It's hard to visualize that large of a number. So when I say that's an 8-character password using 26 different letters, and if you make a 9-character password, you're going to have something in the trillions. Well, so what? 208 billion, something trillion. What's the difference at that point? Is usually what would go through my head. So I thought, why not take this a different way and try and explain how much more complex a password gets in another way. So for this I thought, what if we started writing down every possible different combination on paper, and we'll assume that a sheet of paper can hold 1,000 different combinations. Okay, so I'll take the 26 to the power of 8 and I'll write down every possible combination. I'll start writing it on the paper until I've written 1,000 on a sheet of paper. Then I'll take that paper, put it down, and I'll start on a new sheet of paper. I'll write down the next 1,000, put it on top of the other one, the next 1,000, until I've written down every possible combination, all 208 billion. How tall would that stack of paper be? Well, in that particular case, if we're talking using just letters and an 8-character long password, and here I'm talking just lowercase or uppercase, but not both. If we stacked up those sheets of paper, each containing 1,000 different combinations, and then knocked it over, that stack of paper would have been tall enough to cover the distance between Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and Flagstaff, Arizona in the United States. And that's actually not incredibly accurate, because that's actually the distance between those two according to Google Maps using their direction counter. So that would actually fall along all the roadways along the way. So it would actually go a little bit further than Flagstaff. Okay. So that's a very tall stack of paper, and now that's something we can visualize a little bit better than 208 billion, kind of a number that doesn't really mean anything. And if we take it a step further and we say, we'll take 8 characters, but we'll use letters, numbers, and the symbols that are commonly found on the keyboard, and we keep it as an 8-character long password, well, how much more complex would that password be? So if we did the same exercise and we wrote down 1,000 different combinations per sheet of paper and we started stacking them up, how tall would that stack be? Well, in this case, that stack would be so tall it would be able to cover the distance from the Earth to the Moon and over half of the way back again. And so just by adding in numbers and symbols to that same 8-character long password, the stack of paper has gone from Toronto to Flagstaff all the way to the Moon and over half the way back. So you can see that the complexity that you gain just by adding in some numbers and symbols is incredible. If we take that 8-character long password, same letters, numbers, and symbols, and turn it into a 9-character password, well, then that password gets us 2/5 of the way to the sun. So we shoot well past the moon, well past Flagstaff, Arizona, all the way 2/5 of the way to the sun. Okay. So we can see that as we add a character, the strength of the password doesn't increase just by a little bit, it increases by an enormous amount. And to drive that point home, let's look at what happens if we add a 10th character. So most people would think, okay, well, you know, a 9th character brought me 2/5 of the way to the sun, a 10th character will bring me 4/5 of the way to the sun, maybe. Right? But actually adding in a 10th character brings you to the sun and back 18.5 times. That's how tall that stack of paper would be. So you can see that just by adding a single character greatly increases the complexity and the number of different combinations that are available in a password, which would make it much more difficult theoretically for someone to crack your password, provided you had chosen something random and not a dictionary word or something like that. So I hope this explanation of password complexity is a little bit easier to understand than just dealing with abstract numbers that are kind of hard to visualize. If you want to view more presentations like this, you can go to our website, www.nci.ca, and check it out. Leave a comment if you think there's another video that you would like to see, or a presentation you would like to see that doesn't exist already. And we look forward to seeing you there. Thanks again.